Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spiritual Journey podcast. My name is Nimesh, Radia, and I'm your host. I always love starting every episode by saying thank you. I feel so blessed with this podcast. My objective when I started was to simplify spirituality and guide people on their journey. And I feel so blessed with this podcast and the people it's reaching, the messages that we get. You know, especially messages like, oh, I find your podcast exactly when I needed it, and it's guided me, and it just lifts my soul. It's just, we give everything we can on this podcast. It's our way of giving back. And whatever comes through is channeled. I don't edit anything. Even today's topic we picked based on what we're just feeling. And we kind of do that all the time. So thank you if you're a regular listener. Thank you and welcome if this is the first episode you listen to. Thank you for allowing us to guide you. And we're excited to begin. I am an Akashic record reader, Akashic trainer, podcast host, podcast creator, and a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I get to guide people to truly be their authentic selves. If you're going through something, some sort of spiritual awakening, some sort of rebirth, some sort of reset, which so many people are right now, and you really feel like you're going through and shifting something inside, then reach out. Both me and Stacey have a mentorship program that we do together or individually. Whoever voice resonates because it's soul contract, do reach out and maybe we can help you. This podcast wouldn't be where it is today without the beautiful and stunning, sorry, Stacey, now got it properly, introducing the amazing, the stunning, the healer extraordinaire, and published author Stacey Brown. Stacey, as my co-host, I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Over to you.
Hi, friends. So good to be back with you. Really looking forward to another episode of this podcast. My name is Stacey. I'm an intuitive. I do readings for people from all around the world. I'm also an Akashic record reader and a spiritual coach and mentor. And I have a book that I published, Journey to Soul Center, Discovering the Gift of Surrender. It's available on Amazon and Audible. Really looking forward to spending time with all of you today and pouring into you, and hoping that this topic resonates with as many of you as possible. How you doing, Nims?
Yeah, I'm good. We were just talking before about some of the physical things we have going on. So I have this persistent cough that comes and goes. I think it's an allergy related. I think it's related to maybe hay fever. I don't normally suffer from hay fever, but and also Stacey's in some pain today. And again, as always, she still shows up, right? And she'll talk about what that pain is. And so then we got talking about, experiencing pain in the physical body and on the spiritual journey. What does it mean? So today we're talking about when spiritual awakening hurts. Listen to the wisdom of your body. And it's really interesting, right? When we're going through something, typically a lot of people will go and look outside for the answers, right? Look out, maybe Google, book a reading or, whatever it may be. When our recommendation is always to sit with yourself and look for your answers within. Because your body's such a big channel. It gives you so many clues as to what you're going through. And, it's just like when I open the Akashic records, I'll always feel energy and vibration of your guides as they're there. And it's just, so remembering that the body is the vessel for your soul. It's your vehicle for this journey. And it is part of your journey. It's part of giving you the clue. And right now, it does feel like a lot of people are experiencing physical pain. And we'll talk more about it, but it's just physical pain is also a clue. I mean, it's a way that sometimes your messages come through, and there's so many reasons that the pain is there, and sometimes the answers don't come straight away, right? Sometimes you've got to sit with it and you've got to experience it, because you've got to remember you're a soul having a human experience. So just as we begin this conversation, accepting and realizing that your physical body is a conduit for messages. Because ultimately, a lot of the time, the messages come from the soul, come from the suppressed emotions and energetic misalignment. Because sometimes what we do is we experience things and we push it down, thinking we'll deal with it later. And that can 100% manifest as pain in the body. And I feel like we've been pushed right now to deal with everything we've been holding on to. And so if you're feeling something physical, be honest with yourself and sit with it and say, okay, what repressed emotions? What have you pushed down? What is the message with the pain? And maybe you get your answers. So Stacey, as we dive into this topic, I'd love to, I mean, you kind of inspired it. I'd love for you to just talk a bit more about what you're feeling. And, when I ask you the question, listening to the wisdom of your body and how your pain is serving you, what does that mean to you?
It's so interesting because I definitely feel like I'm one of those people who takes my health for granted, not intending to, but I've just kind of been healthy and accepted that and embraced that and moved forward. And I get up every day and I don't really think about it. But about maybe 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And I struggled with that autoimmune disease pretty significantly for several years. And then it quieted down. I changed my diet. I changed the way I was living. And that lifestyle change really helped me to experience some relief. And last night, I was getting ready for bed and I was experiencing some symptoms of my autoimmune disease. And I kind of tried to brush it off. I was getting ready to go to bed. I was tired. And then as I went to bed, I settled in, and about 1 a.m., the pain was waking me up and kept me up through the rest of the night. And it's interesting because the first thing we think to do is, well, at least I think to do, is go to the doctor, right? Like, let's see what the doctor has to say about this. But if we go a little bit deeper in understanding what's happening, I'm not saying it doesn't necessarily require a doctor's attention, but there might be something else going on that's a little bit deeper. And for me in this season, as everybody who's been listening to this knows, I've been waiting on a visa approval to move to the UK. And that experience has been tremendously stressful. And so I have to factor in everything that's going on around me and how it's going to display. And stress is going to display in very different ways depending on the person. And for me, right now, it's manifesting as some physical pain. And I think that there's something deeper going on. I think that I am in a battle right now of trying to get somewhere that I'm not yet, trying to be comfortable in the unknown. And all of these things that I'm feeling, I think, are now displaying as something physical. Like it's gone on to the point of now manifesting as something physical. And yet I don't think the reason behind it is something physical. And I think this is something that more of us need to look into when we're going through something and we're having pain. Where is it stemming from? What is the underlying issue that we might be going through that's causing the pain? Are we stressed? Are we anxious? Are we tired? What do we have going on spiritually? Are we in a battle spiritually that we need to confront? And so I'm just really learning a lot about myself right now as I navigate this pain and what to do with it, right? Like I know that this is not something that I can live with on a day-to-day basis. And the question then becomes, how do I release it? Okay, so that's the bigger question for me right now is I'm in pain. How do I process and release it? And that's kind of the stage that I'm in right now as this is brewing. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that helps a lot. I mean, it just, it's can't be coincidence that, you've been waiting on a response, and the day you get some sort of response is also the day that you feel physical pain. There is, I'm not saying there's always a spiritual answer, Because sometimes your physical body's going through something, it is, but there's always a message there. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't have to go through some, go and see the doctor and all that sort of stuff. But it is always worth just checking in with yourself, right? It's that what does the pain mean? What are the messages that come with the pain? How is it serving you? What's the lesson that goes with it? Are all kind of valid questions. And sometimes we expect a magical response, right? An easy answer, take this pill and everything will be fixed. Sometimes it doesn't need to take long, by the way. I'm not saying there isn't a magical answer, but sometimes we've got to go through something physical. And it's listening to your intuition, accepting that the pain is part of your spiritual journey. Because sometimes we're also waiting for something. It's like, when I get through this pain, when the pain stops, that's when, I'll start to do this or I'll start to do that. And I really find that when we're waiting for something, that's when the universe kind of gives us clues and pushes us, because we're a soul having a human experience. So as soon as we wait, we're not having a human experience. So it's an interesting journey, right? And I do feel like everybody right now is in a space where they can feel a shift. I feel like we can all feel some sort of shift coming through us, especially if you listen to this podcast. And it's like we're all on this holding waiting pan, kind of knowing there's big shifts happening on the planet, and somehow they'll affect us. And I guess everybody handles it different, but there is anxiety around it. There is wanting to know. There is an urgency of getting through this phase. And the whole thing is, when we're not meant to get through it, we're meant to experience it. And it's easy for me to say, and it's just, I know right now I just talked about cough, but it affects my sleep. So it's like when it's 5 o'clock in the morning, and I tend to go to sleep late anyway. I love the time of night, but it does affect how productive I am the next day. And it's just, it's a human experience. And I do sometimes wonder, well, hold on a second. I know there's a lot I need to do spiritually. Then surely the physical body will support me too. But I'm a soul having a human experience too. So, it's always a lesson. It's always, so if you're feeling something, then sit with it and ask, how is it serving you? What experience maybe that you need to deal with? A lot of the time, a lot of us are dealing with inner child meditation, inner child challenges and things that are coming up, because I feel like this is a phase in our journey, with all the planets in retrograde and all this going on the planets, that we are being pushed to close cycles. So if you are going through something painful, then it is something that you need to sit with and understand. And there's a lot that we experience during an awakening, and I feel like we're all going through an awakening. What does that look like? And I feel like a lot of people are experiencing in this phase anger. There's things coming up because we're closing out cycles: fatigue, headaches, joint stiffness, back, neck pain, digestive issues. It's tension, anxiety, pain in the heart. It's all can all be connected to an awakening, to emotionals, or anything you're going through spiritually. And like I said, with the planet going through such a shift, it was shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine. Your physical body is bound to feel it, so don't ignore it. And I do the same as what Stacey says, right? I mean, when Stacey says she doesn't look after her body, I was looking and think, what? Wait, what? Because I know, she does a lot of things right, and I know this time she doesn't exercise all the time, but she inspires me to do more physical activity. So I'm like, I look at it and say, and I know we're all hard on ourselves, right? But she changed the diet, and it had a massive impact. So there is things you can do, and you have to own it, right? And if you think about shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine, what does the masculine always want to do? The masculine always wants to push through. We'll get through it. Don't. And if you think about the masculine being in crisis, and the feminine truly trying to find itself, and what does the feminine do? The feminine is the one that has the voice of reason, rest, feel what's happening, listen. It's when your guides are, you see it. And both, I'm not saying you need to do one or the other, because we need balance, right? Divine masculine, divine feminine. It's an interesting time. So Stacey, I'm going to ask you, when you talked a lot about the pain you're feeling. If you were to tap into, I love putting you on the spot. What do you feel that your message is?
I feel like I've been stuffing a lot of what has been going on in my life, like pushing it down, suppressing it, because there hasn't been a place to put it other than sit and wait. And so I feel like I've kind of stuffed everything down without realizing that's what I was doing. And so for me in this season, I feel like it's about opening up and releasing some of that stress, whether it's talking to friends about it, talking to my therapist about it, kind of bringing to light exactly what's going on with me and owning it, I feel is really important. And I think in trying to be strong, I have suppressed a lot of it, right? Like I have pushed a lot of it down because I need to be strong. I need to push through, kind of that masculine approach, right? Of like bear down, push through, we'll get over it. And yet that approach isn't working this time. I think that I have to have more compassion for myself and more understanding for what I'm going through. And I have to provide myself with more spaces to actually process what's happening rather than just pushing it down and sitting with it and waiting. And that's not easy because this is such an intense time. It's bringing about so much emotion, and I'm feeling all of it. And I really feel like it's manifesting physically. So I think the approach for me needs to be finding opportunities to connect with other people and like my tribe and share with them what I'm going through. I had several people reach out to me this morning, just kind of checking in. And, when people check in, a lot of times, hi, how are you? How are you doing? We'll say, I'm fine or I'm good. And I made sure that I didn't say that this morning. I owned it. I said, I'm in pain. I'm struggling. I'm not quite sure what's going on. But I've kind of allowed myself this space to start talking about it. And it's scary because I don't want to think there's something wrong. I don't want to sit in the space of worrying. But I think when we talk to people about what's going on, it keeps us out of that cycle of worry and has us more in a space of like introspection versus worry. I feel like when I talk to other people, I open up more about what's going on and it helps me process things. And I'm a verbal processor. I have to talk things out in order to work through them. So I am working through this as we're recording this podcast. I am working through figuring out what I need. And I think one of the biggest things I need is an outlet to be able to release the stress so that I'm not carrying it all the time. And one of the things that I have found that has been really helping me in this season of waiting has been getting outside multiple times a day. Okay, getting out in nature and connecting with nature and being still in nature has really, really helped me to process all that I'm going through, like practicing that pause. And we talk about the pause a lot. We talk about practicing that space where you're intentional and introspective and reflective. And I've been trying multiple times a day to make that a priority and make sure that I'm resetting my energy so that I'm not carrying all of this extra stuff. And it's been helpful. So I'm definitely still figuring it out, Nims, but I also feel like I'm learning more about myself and finding the ways through it.
Yeah, I understand. I 100% understand. We've spoke about kind of what you're going through, and when when you're going through a physical move, i.e., you're deciding to move to a different country, but the decision lies with somebody else and you have to wait. I get well, what's the point in talking about it, right? I mean, what's that going to achieve? But I also understand the flip side of what you're saying in terms of whatever you're processing, whatever you're feeling is part of your journey. And maybe the delay in getting an answer is you not sitting with it and asking, what does it mean? I mean, you've been through so much in the last few years, and it's really interesting watching. It's sometimes easier to see it from when somebody else is going through it rather than when what's happening in your physical body. And your physical body, and when I think about it, when I feel it now, reacting today, it's not a surprise, right? And it's how you're one of the strongest people I know, and it's kind of like your vulnerability and how much you've shifted in the past few years. And I'm so I think you're a great example. I think you're a great of what we're going through right now. It's really interesting, because the other thing that affects our body is, of course, when we're going through a shift, when we're going through an ascension, when the planet's going through a shift that it is. But at the same time, what is the planet going through, right? I mean, what is there right now? 4 planets, I think, in retrograde, Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Mercury. And we can go through all the planets and what they mean, but it's not really typically what we do. I follow the planets, but I don't do deep dives on each of it because I like to trust my intuition. But it really does feel like a time of a massive shift. 4 major planets, at least 3 of them dealing with deep spiritual type activities. A 4th, Mercury, deals with communication and kind of sure, electronics and all that sort of stuff too. But it's not a surprise that we're feeling things at such an intense level. And just for full disclosure, we're recording this on Tuesday the 22nd, got all of the numbers, and I'll release it on the coming Monday. So you'll still be in the retrograde, you'll still be feeling the energy, which is why we try and record this one. The guest ones are normally typically a month, 6 weeks in advance, but the one with Stacey is normally the week before. So because we like to tap into the current energy. So when you build into the fact that we're individually going through so many shifts, you build into the fact that the planet is shifting in such a big way. And of course, all these planets in retrograde, it's not coming back this time by chance. It's just in line. I really feel like everything we're going through, what the planet's going through, is divinely timed. It's been going on for centuries. So we are going to feel it. And I'm with Stacey in the way that there are times I don't look after my physical body. I'll be honest. I'm trying to work on it. I'm trying to do more physical activity. I've always meditated a lot, and I love nature. I love my garden, so that part. But I do. I've got to look after this physical body and this physical vessel better too. And I'm honest with it. I'm trying to shift things. So, but it's all elements, right? We have 4 bodies: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And it's just your karma, your release could be in any one of those bodies. And one of the things we like to do quite a lot, and with all of our clients at the beginning of every session, is checking with those 4 bodies. How do you feel physically from 0 to 10? Tap into your physical body. Be honest with yourself. How do you feel mentally? Mentally is all about the brain, the mind, the ego. How's that feeling? 0 to 10. Then your emotions. How are you feeling about love inside you and love around you? Rate that 0 to 10. And then how do you feel spiritually? What's your connection to your guides, your source like? And it's not about getting you to all 10s because you're a soul having human experience. It's about tapping in and really kind of listening to your body and, realize. So if you're here and you listen to this episode, then check in with your 4 bodies. Check in. And if you're going through something physical, of course, go and see the doctors. Go and do what the physical body needs. But make sure you're checking in with all bodies, right? Because it's not always just the human medical side that's the answer. Of course, follow up there. But it could also be in other areas. I had a Stacey rang me this morning in the US time, and she was telling me about all the pain. I was like, "Oh, you taking anything?" She's like, "I was not sure what I could take." And I'm like, "Well, have you spoken to the doctor?" She's like, "No." I was like, "Wait, And it's like in my logical mind, if you're in that much pain, but in because she's been through so much, in her mind, it's like, well, not sure they can do anything with it anyway. Maybe I've just got to process this. And it's just, it's interesting how we deal with things, right? And honestly, if it was, it's easy for me to give Stacey advice. If it was for me, I'd probably be reluctant to call the doctor too. It's just, but I feel like the pain Stacey was in this morning, I probably would have called the doctor. So, but I'm curious when you say something. Like I said, you've been through so much over the past few years, and I really feel like the pain that you've experienced in all four of your bodies really activated the healer in you. It brought up a power in you that is amazing. I wouldn't wish, the deep experience and the deep journey on anybody, but ultimately it is there for a reason. So I'm curious, when you think about pain in all bodies and kind of the spiritual journey, how has that led to the healer in you?
It's such an interesting question because I absolutely feel that pain is a catalyst to growth. Like it can be. I don't think it has to be, but I absolutely think that it can be. And I think a lot of my growth and expansion has come through pain, whether it be emotional pain, mental pain, spiritual pain, physical pain. I absolutely feel that it plays a huge part in my evolution and my growth. And it's crazy to say that because I don't want to think that it takes painful experiences for me to expand and grow. But I absolutely feel that through the last several years, that's kind of been a theme, that I've had to walk through some pain in order to integrate the lesson. I think the interesting part is in the last decade, it hasn't been physical pain like this. It's been a lot more emotional and mental and spiritual pain that I've been through. And so this feels different. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to my body saying no. And I'm not used to feeling this level of discomfort. But I absolutely feel that this is another layer of the healing that I'm experiencing. This is another challenge that I'm facing that feels like there's a message for me. And I'm still trying to uncover what that message is. I absolutely feel like there needs to be a release of how I'm carrying things. I definitely think that I need to make some changes in how I'm allowing this to impact me, but I'm not quite clear on what that looks like yet. It still feels a little uncertain.
The thing is, as you say, I love this podcast and how sometimes we process what we're going through when we're talking on this podcast. And I love how you're always so open and vulnerable with it. And it really is an interesting time. And, owning up and being honest with yourself is a really big part of it. And like I said, we're all going through something. So talking to others and, we know ourselves really well. Stacey knows that she processes by talking to others. But I also know that what she's going through now, it's like, well, we're waiting on somebody else. It's not on me. So what's the point in talking about it? But let me ask you as a listener, how do you process what you're going through? Do you sit with it? Do you meditate? Do you talk it out? I would recommend all of those. But what is your way of processing? And what are you holding on to now that is potentially going to cause you pain, or maybe already is? Maybe you're listening to this episode for a reason. For me, just I've been feeling tired, feeling energetic exhaustion. There's a lot of healing I've been doing. I get that. I did a meditation circle in my home last week, and that's a different level of exhaustion because you're holding so much space for people, and the planet's going through such a shift too. So it's not just about the people in the room, but it's interesting from a masculine perspective. The masculine is in crisis. So, and sometimes the masculine approach is, especially when you're talking about self, it is to push it down. So again, if the divine masculine is in crisis for all of us, then of course you're going to be going through, and maybe of course you're going to be pushing things down and feeling exhausted and, just always trying to do something. Sometimes the message is to sit with your guys, to sit with your energy and really listen. Because masculine loves to be that strong hero type, but also likes to do something. Oh my God, need to do something about it. Try this pill, try this vitamin, try this, try that, try that. But your answer isn't always outside. A lot of the time it's inside. And it's like resisting versus understanding whether you got to resist or surrender. Because when we fight the pain, and, however you fight it, whether it's ignoring it or, it'll pass, or just taking lots of painkillers but actually not dealing with it, it gets louder. What happens when we pause? What happens when we pause and ask, what is this pain trying to show me? And Stacey just went through that process, which is where the question came from. Beautifully, she gave an example, as she does, where she asked the question, well, hold on, what is this pain trying to show me? You know what? I've got to share what I'm going through with more people, and that's what's going to help me. And we always recommend self-care on this podcast as a way of supporting your spiritual journey. It's just, you've got to meet your guides halfway. And what does that look like? Spend time in nature, grounding, journaling, gentle movement, some sort of physical activity, hydration. Water is such a beautiful way of just staying hydrated and feeling balanced. Doing nervous system work, breathing. Of course, if you feel like you need guidance, book an Akashic record reading. We love what we do. You get when you book it with both of us, you get a unique experience of getting an Akashic record reading from a divine masculine, divine feminine. We love doing it. Actually, we've got a reading straight after this. So, it's just such an interesting time. So, Stacey, I just want to jump back to you and I know you're processing. I can feel your energy processing in this episode, and I love it. I love how open you are. So, what would your advice be to somebody that's feeling something in any of their bodies, but maybe starting with physical? What would you advise someone to do?
Well, the first thing I think to do is ask yourself, where's the pain coming from? Evaluate your four bodies. I feel like this is something that we teach all of our clients, and it works really well. Rate yourself in each one of your four bodies to kind of see where you are. Is the pain physical? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Is it spiritual? I think we have to do a personal inventory first to figure out where the pain is coming from. And then from that space, once you figure out where the pain is coming from, then you've got to deal with why. Why are you in pain? Why are you in this kind of pain? Are you going through a stressful time? Are you experiencing something different? Have you been thrown a curveball? What are your circumstances and how is it impacting you? I really feel like being aware that you have four bodies and being able to verbalize which one of your bodies is struggling is a huge part of things, right? Because if you're struggling spiritually, it's very different than struggling mentally or emotionally. And we want to kind of do that personal inventory to figure out where the pain is coming from. And then ask yourself, why? Why are you in pain, right? Like once you can figure out which body is in pain, where is the pain coming from? What is the origin of the pain? What exactly are you feeling? How long have you been feeling it? And what could be the underlying reason? Are you looking at all aspects of your life? You might have had, a stressful interaction at work and you've put it out of your mind because you didn't want to think about it. But then you're not feeling well and can't figure out why you're not feeling well. And maybe it was that interaction that you had with that other person that impacted you in that way. So I think being aware of the why, like why you're going through something, is really important. And then I think from that space, we pursue, outside help, whether it's a doctor or a therapist or a mentor or a coach, whatever it is that we need to help us navigate through that challenging time. But I think the first key in any of this is awareness. And we talk about awareness a lot on this podcast. You can't change anything if you're not aware of what's going on. And so taking the time to be aware and alert and evaluate what is going on just feels like a really important part of this process to gain clarity on what you actually need, right? So I think there's some kind of a personal inventory that we have to do, a process that we have to do in order to navigate through this. And sometimes it's not super clear right away. So when it's not super clear, that's when I say it's time to turn to meditation or journaling, something that can give you a little bit more clarity on what you're going through. And sometimes it takes hashing it out a little bit before you can understand. You know, you would think that it would be obvious to me that I'm going through so much change and now I've got these physical symptoms displaying. And you would think it would be obvious. Well, duh, Stacey, you're going through so much. Of course, this is going to affect you physically. But I didn't even think about that. I just knew I was in pain and I knew I needed to do something about it. That was it. But now I have this awareness that there's more to it, right? Like I'm going through all of these major changes and my body is now finally saying, help, help, do something, save us, you know? And so I'm changing the way I'm doing things, and I'm going to have to look at more consistent releases for the stress in order to navigate through the pain.
You know, it's interesting. It's just we're all learning, right? We're all students. We're all trying to figure this stuff out. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey, and you know, even for us healers, right? Sometimes it takes being on a podcast to, you know, recording a podcast to gain that awareness. And you know, Stacey's right on on first stage being awareness, and changing a question is such a big part of it. You know, she asked some beautiful questions, and just some that come to mind. Where in my body am I holding tension? What am I afraid to feel? What am I resisting that's asked to be released? And just that questions like that increase your awareness. And then what comes after awareness is acceptance. And, you know, I always say things like everything in your external body is a result of something. Everything in your external body is a result of something in your internal body. And again, that's really hard to take sometimes, right? Hold on, there's somebody here saying that whatever you're going through, you manifest it. And if you're going through something painful and something that's, you know, really deep, painful, and, you know, could be, you know, very serious, and, you know, who knows how far it goes. And you have somebody saying, well, hold on, I manifested this. I honestly, I really believe that. And, you know, it's just, again, what I believe, but everything you're going through is serving you in some kind of way. And these questions that we've been taking you on through this episode are powerful to reframe, because what comes is awareness. And as Stacey says, without awareness, we can't do anything, because what awareness allows you to do is makes you aware that you have a choice. But like I said, after that, it's acceptance. And if you're going through something really physical, it's hard to accept, because you're like, well, you know, I'll give you an example. You know, many years ago when my niece, she was 10, maybe 11, she got diagnosed with leukemia. And I remember I was so angry with God. I could deal with stuff as an adult, but why somebody so young? I was so, you know, she's gone through it. She's still experiencing some pain from time to time, but she's in remission. But it gave her strength. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but it's interesting when you look at somebody else's journey, and reframing, understanding that sometimes the pain is the portal, not the obstacle, is really important. So Stacey, let me ask you, and I know we've talked about this question a lot. when I say to you that everything you're external, everything you've been through is part of your journey and is serving you, the pain that you're feeling right now, when I say things like that, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's a little frustrating because you don't want to think that your outside world is impacting your inside world as much as it is. But I think there's a strong awareness that that's what's going on, that my external world is impacting my internal one. And for whatever reason, I have to now face this and figure out what to do about it, right? How I'm going to handle it. And I think the beautiful thing about this season of my life is I have more awareness than I've ever had before. And I'm willing to look at things from different angles that I wasn't maybe necessarily willing to look at before or wasn't capable of before. And that space is helping me to understand that what's going on internally is a part of my reality. It's something that I have cultivated and brought into my reality. And now I've got to figure out what I do with it. Like now I know where it came from, but now it's like the next step is, what do you do with it?
But yeah, I mean, that's a great example of becoming aware, right? And, that's why you have me in your life, right, Stace? But we're all going through something. I mean, it's like, for me, I say quite often, I'm tired of being tired. And it's just, there's an acceptance that as the physical body, as the planet goes through a shift, I'm going to feel it. It's just something that I've chosen as a soul to do. And it's just like, okay. But at the same time, I'm still human. So whatever you're going through, it's not any more or any less than anyone else, right? So, but just accepting it's somehow guiding you, and it's not an obstacle. Is powerful. And if you're experiencing pain right now, physical exhaustion, tightness in your chest, aching, whatever you're experiencing, we see you. We're here. You're not alone. You're not broken. Everything you're going through, you're meant to. And that's the other thing, is because Stacey was talking about talking to her friends and all, sharing. Who's in your community that can hold your space? Maybe you don't need sympathy, but maybe talking it out to help you understand how it's serving you does help. Because sometimes your pain is your soul's way of slowing you down, of saying, hey, something inside you is shifting and you need to listen. On the spiritual journey, healing doesn't always look like peace and stillness. We've done so many episodes where we've talked about the spiritual journey, and, it's just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you're perfect. Sometimes it's messy, sometimes it hurts, but your body is not your enemy, it's your ally. It's part of your journey. It's carrying your soul. It's carrying so much wisdom. It's doing the best it can. And just as I said, when the divine masculine within us is in crisis, the body often holds that pressure. It's going through a shift. And you know what it's like when your body's going through change. Remember yourself as a child when you're going through a growth spurt. And when you're born, how painful is that for your mom, right? It's just, but just understanding through control, through pushing, through overdoing, sometimes it doesn't help. The season we're in is really calling us back to be in balance, into softness, into trust. So my invitation to you at this time, next time your body speaks, in fact, in this moment, pause. Instead of pushing through, ask, what are you trying to tell me? What do you need me to feel, to release, to acknowledge? Maybe the answer isn't always to pop a pill. Maybe the answer is to listen to you. What if this is a sacred moment in your journey and even the discomfort is guiding you? And I know it's frustrating. Tell me, it's just, yeah, I get it. But you don't have to hold it all on your own, right? Whether it's through mentorship, whether it's through building a community, simply reaching out, ask for support. Let yourself be held. Let yourself be loved. You're not alone. Remember that you're here to do something that's going to shift the planet. Your body's doing holy work. It's doing work that is needed on the planet. So what if you could be gentler? What if you could be kind to yourself? And Stacey, I'm talking to you. But I'm also talking to our listeners. So as we close out this episode, what's your message to the listeners? Well, what are you, from that loving space of yours, and what can you share to just let our listeners know that they are supported and loved by the universe, by us, by our guides, and to truly realize there is hope, there is an answer out there? What's your message to them?
I think my message is to be lovingly patient with yourself as you navigate through this. Oftentimes we can get frustrated or discouraged or upset or even bitter and angry. And we let those things consume us instead of addressing the problem and trying to rectify it and move forward. And I just feel like if you're going through something right now, some sort of pain, the only way through it is through it, not denying it, not pushing it away, not being angry about it, but facing it. And it takes a lot of courage to do that, regardless of what kind of pain you're facing, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. It doesn't matter where the pain is coming from. It matters that you acknowledge it and address it so that it doesn't control you, right? Those things can take over and make us angry and bitter and resentful and hurt and all of these negative emotions. And what do those negative emotions do? Cultivate more negativity, possibly more pain, exacerbating the issue even more. And so I would lovingly encourage our audience to take a closer look at what you're going through and try to really understand where it's coming from and how you're going to handle it. Because the other thing is about pain is when we're in pain, we tend to take it out on other people. And the people around us suffer. So do yourself a favor and do those people around you a favor by addressing what you need to and moving forward in a healthy way. I really believe that's the only way to heal, is moving through it, facing it honestly, figuring out what the lessons are, integrating those lessons into our lives, and moving forward a healthier version of you.
Wise words, wise words. And I'm just thinking, I love how the universe works and leads us to kind of the conclusion of the journey. I'm sure our guides sometimes are smiling and laughing at the work they've done, because this whole episode was inspired by conversation with Stacey this morning and just what she's going through. And maybe, again, everything's a co-creation. Maybe we need to have this conversation, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that needed to hear it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Stacey, thank you for inspiring the topic. If you're going through something, we're sending you the biggest hug. We're sending you so much love and light. Truly hope you get to your answers and connect with your guides and truly hear the messages and understand why you're going through what you're going through. And sending you so much love and light. Stacey, I'm going to hand over to you to close us out.
I think the big thing is to remember you don't have to do it alone. I think oftentimes when we're in pain of any kind, we isolate because we don't know what else to do with it and we let it consume us. But you don't have to do this alone. Lean into your support system. Lean into your family and your friends. Find a mentor that you trust who can help you navigate through what you're going through. But do what you can to face those things and move forward as the healthiest version of you. I promise you it's worth it to work through the pain. Thanks for being here with us today. Another beautiful episode. I feel so grateful for this podcast and for the people that we get to impact. And we love hearing from you. So if you have feedback for us, please reach out and share it. We love hearing from our listeners. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, everybody, sending love and light, and we'll be back soon. Bye for now.